Daf Yomi, Tractate Sanhedrin, page 49a. Top of the page with the word Tehei Luta, Velo Tehei La'ata. It means be the one who is cursed and not the one who curses, as a curse eventually returns to the one who curses. Isua Lioav Daine Amarle Maitam Katlani Avner Amarle Goel Hadam Te Asael Have Asael Rodef Have Amarle Hayalo Latzilo Be'achad Me'evav. The Gemara returns to discuss the incident of Joab. They brought Joab before Solomon, who judged him. Solomon said to Joab, "What is the reason that you killed Avner?" Joab said to him, "I was the blood redeemer of the blood of Asael. When Abner murdered my brother Asael, I killed him in fulfillment of my duty as his blood redeemer." Solomon said to him, "But Asael was pursuing Avner with the intention of killing him, and therefore he had the status of a pursuer. Since Avner killed Asael in an act of self-defense, you had no right to kill him as redeemer of Asael's blood." Joab said to Solomon, "Avner could have saved himself by wounding Asael in one of his limbs. Having failed to do so, he was guilty of murder, and I was therefore entitled to kill him." Amarle lo yachile. Amarle hashta bedofen chamishit. Kivan dichtiv vayakeu Avner be'acharei achanit el hachomesh. Ve'amar Yochanan bedofen dofen chamishit b'makom shimara v'kaved teluyin bo. Be'echad me'ivarav lo yachile. Solomon said to him, "Avner was not able to injure Asael because he was running and could not aim with precision." Joab said to Solomon, "Now Avner was able to aim and hit him precisely in the fifth rib, as it is written, and Avner smote him with the butt end of the spear in the Chomesh." 2 Samuel 2:23. And Rabbi Yochanan says that this means that he hit him in the fifth rib, the place where the gallbladder and the liver hang. If Avner could aim with precision at the fifth rib, could he not have successfully aimed at one of Asael's limbs? Amarle Nezil Avner my time a katlana le amasa. Amarle amasa mored b'malchatava malchutava. Dichtiv vayomer melech le amasa. Hezaak li et es ish Yehuda shloshet yamim v'gomer v'yelech amasa lehazik et Yehuda vayochar. Solomon said to Joab, "Set aside Avner, as you have presented a convincing argument that you are not liable for his death. But what is the reason you killed Amasa?" Joab said to him, "I killed Amasa in punishment for his having rebelled against the king, as it is written, and the king said to Amasa, 'Muster to me the men of Judah within 3 days, and be you here present.' And Amasa went to call the men of Judah, but he was later than the set time he had assigned him." 2 Samuel 24:5. Amarle Amasa akin v'rakin darash. Solomon said to him, "Amasa was not guilty of rebelling against the king, because he interpreted the words ach and rak in a restrictive manner. Ak and Rak in a restricted manner, and in that way he limited the king's authority. Ashkechinu tipatiach lehu b'masechta. Amar ketiv. Kol ish asher yimareh et picha v'lo yishama et devarecha lechol asher titzavenu yumat. Yachol afilu l'devarei Torah tamid loma rak chazak v'ematz. How so? Amasa found the men of Judah starting to study a new tractate. He said to himself, "It is written, any man who rebels against your commandment and will not listen to your words in all that you command him, he shall be put to death." Joshua 1:18, indicating that the king of Israel has unlimited power. Based on these words alone, one might have thought that the king must be obeyed even when that would lead to abstention from the study of the words of Torah. Therefore, that same verse states, only Rak, be strong and of good courage. The word Rak is a restrictive term that serves to limit the king's authority in a situation where obeying his command will minimize the study of Torah. Consequently, Amasa was justified when he did not muster the men of Judah at the appointed time, and you had no right to kill him. Ela ahu gavra mored b'malchut haba dichtiv yashmoa ba'a ad Yoav ki Yoav nata achrei Adoniah v'achrei Avshalom lo nata. Solomon continued, rather the opposite is true. That man, meaning you, Joab, rebelled against the king. As it is written, then tidings came to Joab. For Joab followed after Adoniah, though he had not followed after Absalom. And Joab fled to the tent of the Lord and caught hold of the horns of the altar. 1 Kings 2:28. Joab followed Adonijah, thereby rebelling against Solomon, the lawful king. Mai lo nata, Rav Yehuda shebikesh lentot ve'lo nata, umay taima lo nata, Rabbi Elazar adayin lechluchit shel David kayemet. The Gemara asks, what does the verse mean to teach when it says that Joab did not follow Absalom? Rav Yehuda says, it serves to teach that Joab wanted to follow Absalom, but in practice he did not follow him. The Gemara asks, if he wanted to do so, what is the reason that Joab did not follow Absalom? Rabbi Elazar says, when Absalom rebelled against his father, David was still in full possession of his vitality, meaning he was still strong, and Joab feared him. Rabbi Yossi ben Rabbi Chanina Amar, Adayin istagnine shel David kayomin, de'amar Rabbi Yehuda Rav, 400 ילדים היו לו לדוד. כולן בני יפת תואר היו, ומגדלי בלורית היו, מראש הגייסות היו, והן בעלי אגרופין של דוד. Rabbi Yossi, the son of Rabbi Chanina, says, David's stars, its significant, the planetary influences that determined his fortune, still stood for him. As Rabbi Yehuda says, the Rav says, David had 400 children in his army. All of them were sons of beautiful women, taken captive from their Gentile homes during war, see Deuteronomy 21, 10-14. And they grew their hair in a Gentile hairstyle, and they would go at the head of the troops, and they were the strong arm enforcers of the house of David, on whose loyalty David's monarchy relied. As long as David was supported by this force, Joab was afraid to challenge him. Upligi de Rabbi Abba bar Kahana. De Amar Rabbi Abba bar Kahana. Il male David lo asa Yoav milchama. Il male Yoav lo asak David b'Torah. Dichtiv. Vayehi David oseh mishpat u'tzedakah lechol amo. ויואב בן צרויה על הצבא. מה טעם דוד עושה משפט וצדקה לכל עמו משום ליואב על הצבא? ומה טעם יואב על הצבא? משום דוד עושה משפט וצדקה לכל עמו. The Gemara notes, and those who view Joab in a negative light disagree with the opinion of Rabbi Abba bar Kahana. As Rabbi Abba bar Kahana says, were it not for David to study Torah, Joab would not have been able to wage war successfully. And were it not for the military acumen of Joab, David would not have been able to study Torah. As it is written, and David executed judgment and justice to all his people, and Joab, son of Zeruiah, was over the army. 2 Samuel 8:15 and 16. What is the reason that David executed judgment and justice to all his people? He was able to do so because Joab, son of Zeruiah, was over the army, assisting him in fighting his battles. And what is the reason that Joab, son of Zeruiah, was over the army? He was able to do so because David executed judgment and justice to all his people. Vayitzav Yoav mi'im David vayishalach. Excuse me for a moment. I'll take a little pause here. Okay, we're back here. Okay. Vayetze Yoav mi'im David vayishlach melachim acharei Abner vayashuvu oto vayashivu oto mibor hasira my bor hasira Rabbi Abba bar Kahana bor hasira garmulo l'Avner shiareg. The verse states, and Joab went out from David and sent messengers after Abner, and they brought him back from Bor Sirah. 2 Samuel 3:26. The Gemara asks, what is the meaning of the name Bor Sirah? Rabbi Abba bar Kahana says, a well, bore, and a thorn, the Sirah, caused Abner to be killed. Abner became liable to be killed when he failed to take advantage of two opportunities to bring about a reconciliation between King Saul and David. First, David cut off a corner of Saul's robe after he entered a cave in order to relieve himself. And second, when David found Saul sleeping and took the jug of water and the spear from next to his head. Rather than tell Saul that David could have killed him and refrained from doing so, Abner suggested to Saul that his robe may have been torn by a thorn bush, and that his jug of water may have been taken by one of his own men. These two incidents are alluded to by the words bore, well, and jug of water, sirah, thorn bush. Vayateu Yoav el toch hashar ledaber ito b'sheli. Amar Rabbi Yochanan shidanu din Sanhedrin. Amar le mai taimar katale l'Asrael. Asel rodef haya lecha להצילו באחד מאיבריו לא יחל אליה. שבאופן חמישית כוונית לה באחד מאיבריו לא יכלת לה. The verse states, and Joab took him aside in the gate to speak with him quietly. 2 Samuel 3:27. Rabbi Yochanan says Joab judged Avner according to the halacha of the Sanhedrin, which would sit in judgment by the gate of the city. How so? Joab said to Avner, what is the reason that you killed Asael. Avner said to him, Asael was pursuing me with the intention to kill me, and therefore he had the status of a pursuer, whom I had the right to kill in self-defense. Yoav said to Avner, even so, you could have saved yourself by wounding one of his limbs. Avner replied, I was not able to do so, as I was running and could not aim with precision. Joab said to him, now seeing that you were able to aim and hit him precisely in the fifth rib, could you not have successfully aimed at one of his limbs? לדברי טוב השלי, אומר רב יהודה מרב על עסקי שלו, ויקהו שם לחומש, אמר רבי יוחנן בן חמישי, מקום שמרה, יקווה תלויים בו. The Gemara asks, what is the meaning of to speak with him quietly, Asheli? Rabbi Yehuda says, the Rav says he took him aside to speak to him by way of deception. As for what he stated, and Avner smote him with the butt of the end of the spear in the Chomesh. 2 Samuel 2:23. Rabbi Yochanan says he hit him in the fifth rib, the place where the gallbladder and the liver hang. V'heshiv Hashem es damo al rosho al paga b'shnei anashim tzadikim tovim mimenu tovim shahayu dorshin akin v'rakin v'hu lo darash tzadikim shehen b'peh v'lo asu v'hu b'igeret asa. The verse states that Solomon said to Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, concerning Joab, the Lord shall return the blood upon his own head, for he fell upon two men more righteous and better than he. 1 Kings 2:32. The Gemara explains, Amasa and Avner were better than Joab, as they interpreted the words Ak and Rak in a restrictive manner that limited the king's authority, while he did not interpret them in that way, demonstrating that they were greater than him in Torah. Amasa and Avner were also more righteous than Joab, as they both received oral instructions directly from Saul to slay the priest of Nov, and they did not do so, whereas Joab was instructed by David in a letter to kill Uriah, and he did so. The Amasa לא נשמר בחרב אשר ביד יואב אמריו שלא חשדו. The verse states, but Amasa took no heed of the sword in Joab's hand. 2 Samuel 20:10. Rav says Amasa took no heed of the sword because he did not suspect that Joab was capable of murdering him. ויקבר בביתו במדבר עטו ביתו מדבר הוא. אמר רב יהודה בן רב כמדבר. מה מדבר? מופקר לכל, אף ביתו יואב מופקר לכל. דבר אחר, כמדבר, מה מדבר מנוקה מגזר ואריות? אף ביתו של יואב מנוקה מגזר ואריות, ויואב יחיה את שאר העיר. אמר רב יהודה, אפילו ממונינה וצחנת תאים פריס להו, הדרן הלך נגמר הדין. The verse states, with regard to Joab, and he was buried in his own house in the wilderness. 1 Kings 2:34. The Gemara asks, is that to say that Joab's house was a wilderness? Rav Yehuda says that Rav says, Joab's house was like the wilderness, just as the wilderness is freely open to all, so too Joab's house was freely open to all, as he generously opened his house to the poor and made them feel like members of the household. Alternatively, Joab's house was like the wilderness. Just as the wilderness is clean of theft and sexual immorality, as it is uninhabited, so too Joab's house was clean of theft and sexual immorality, owing to his righteousness. As for the verse, and Joab kept alive the rest of the city, 1 Chronicles 11:8, Rav Yehuda says, not only would Joab feed the poor, but he would even give them treats of types of small fish, so they would lack nothing. We shall return to you, God willing, Nigmar Hadin. This concludes the 5th chapter, I think. 5th or 6th? I'll have to check. Of Sanhedrin.